All right, as promised, we go out to the guest line. It's a pleasure to be joined by my guest at this time. You know him as Fabulous, maybe Johnny Fabulous, and I'm pretty sure you've heard of his kid too. He is John Cena Sr. He's nice enough to give us a few moments live on the line here. Mr. Cena, how are you?
I am, as they say, fabulous. And yourself?
I'm pretty good. I had a feeling you'd say that. I'm sure that you get asked a ton of questions about your son John, but I want to start with you. First of all, if you could, how did you first get involved in the wrestling business?
The way I got involved in the wrestling business was way back many years ago. I get involved in promoting. When the shows would come to the local colleges, they need somebody to go in, set it up, put the posters, get the show going, do the count, make sure the talent showed up. That's how I first got involved in the wrestling end of it. Then as the family came in, obviously, I began to fade out of it.
Now, were you a fan of wrestling growing up?
Absolutely. I was a fan of wrestling because, as I said, my grandfather, God rest his soul, was, I'm Italian, and he was a great fan of the cowboy westerns. He believed they were real. And so, at 9 o'clock every Saturday morning, I'd sneak in his TV room, and I'd turn the television on so I could watch Gordon Soley announce the matches. Such greats as one of my very good friends, Walter Killer Kowalski, rest in peace, brother, but all the big stars, and then he'd come in and click on his cowboy movies. And so I'd have to end my wrestling that day and hope I could pick it up somewhere else. And as most of the fans know, that followed me and still followed me all through my life, because when cable TV came in, I got it for no other reason so that my sons and I could sit down and watch the wrestling matches.
Maybe talk about that a little bit. Your sons, you said, you spent time watching wrestling with them. Talk about a little bit about what that was like.
Crazy. That's the only way I can put it. We'd sit in front of that TV, and the superstars would come on. The guys that, one of the best in the business, in my opinion, Bruno Sammartino, Larry Zbyszko, Walter Killer Kowalski, Chief J. Strongbow, Gorilla Monsoon, Pedro Morales. We'd sit there, and because they were small, and then all of a sudden, as they grew up, they got the hang of it, and I was almost afraid to turn it on, because if I'd go in the other room to grab a cup of coffee or go to the bathroom, I'd hear slam, bang, boom, and they're wrestling in the middle of the living room.
Absolutely.
But, it was fun. We had a great time, and I brought them to as many live matches as I could.
Did you know from an early age, was there anything to indicate that John would go into the business? Was he that passionate about it?
John's goal when he was a young kid, first he was going to be a professional ball player, then he was going to be a rock star, then he was going to be a baseball player, then he was going to be a policeman, then a football player, and then his final decision was he was going to major, and what he did major in, health, fitness, and nutrition, played sports through college, and that's how it all started when he left for California.
Wow, so no idea growing up that he would get into the business. That's interesting, because if you look at him these days, you see how passionate he is in the business. So that's actually pretty interesting to know that wasn't something that you could see early on that he'd be into.
No, never did, not in a million years. And, you use the word passionate, and there are a lot of gentlemen and ladies in this business, and I can only tell you this, John Cena Jr. loves the business. He has a genuine passion for him. 325 days last year on the road. He respects all the fans. He's there for the fans. He's there for the Make-A-Wish. He loves what he does. There's an old saying, when you have a job, you want to get up every morning and let your feet hit the floor and say, I can't wait to go to work. Unlike some of us, our feet hit the floor and we go, oh, shit, pardon my French, we got to go to work.
I mean, from all indications, I'm not in the wrestling business. I'm not behind the scenes. I'm not backstage. But you hear countless story after story after story about what a tireless worker he is. Has he always been that way, not just in wrestling, but in other parts of his life?
All 5 of my sons have the same work ethic. John probably has it a little bit stronger, but there was, I'll give you an example. He was pushed around in school because he liked to dress differently, and he was at his time with the way he dressed, and they used to make fun of him, so he asked me for a weight set for Christmas. So I bought him a Joe Weider weight set for Christmas. I looked at my former spouse and said, this will probably be in the attic within 2 weeks. Within 6 months, he was at the gyms. Within a year, he had a bigger weight set and was doing more with his body. all-natural bodybuilder. He still is all-natural, just like his brother Matthew, and determined to show what you can do if you want to do it. There's no end to this kid. The candle just keeps burning. I used to have that energy.
Now, when you talk about how tireless a worker he is, and being all natural and working on his fitness and his body hard, no more evident was that than at the Royal Rumble a few years ago. And I tell you, that was at Madison Square Garden. I was actually in the building, and me being a guy who I'm very, very, very passionate about the business. Anytime I can talk to somebody, and not just interviewing, anytime I can have like a short conversation with somebody, anything I can read, and yeah, I'm guilty of reading things on the internet. So there I am sitting in Madison Square Garden with a few of my friends at the Royal Rumble, and everyone wants to know who this last entrant's going to be. And I hear a kid say something about Cena, and I'm thinking, well, the poor kid's going to be disappointed because this guy's so hurt, you're not going to see him for another 6 to 8 months. And that was probably the first time that I was surprised like that since probably when I was 5 years old watching Hogan and Macho. When that music hit and the roof nearly blew off of Madison Square Garden, I said, you know what? That's what I get for being a know-it-all. They got me. What is this guy doing back so soon?
I can only tell you this. When he had that injury, I visited him at his home, and he would work instead of once or twice a day what he was supposed to do, he'd do it 4 or 5 times a day. He was determined to get back and entertain the fans and get back in the squared circle and get back to doing what he loved. There's just, I don't know what else to say except that he loves what he does, and I think the proof of the pudding was at the Royal Rumble. I mean, he did what he had to do to get there, and he did it before they thought he could do it. He surprised everyone.
Certainly, he surprised me. I want to touch some more on him, but let's go back to you. I want to talk about what you've done with the character, with the Johnny Fabulous character. How is that, or how did you come up with that character?
Johnny Fabulous came about this way. I went through a divorce, and naturally one of the stages is depression, and I was kind of feeling sorry, and I called my son John, and I said, gee, there's an ad in the newspaper. They're looking for a ring announcer down at Salisbury Beach to do wrestling. That was called Star Wars Wrestling. Knuckles Nelson had that promotion. He said, Pa, get off your butt and get down there and give it a shot. You got a decent voice. So I go down. There's 5 or 6 people there. I'm the next guy in line. I pick the stick up. I do my thing, and the guy looks at me and he goes, wow, but I wish we could use you, bud. Thanks a lot. I start to walk away, and he puts his hand on my shoulder, and he goes, no, you're not going anywhere. He said, I want you to be a manager. I want you to be a heel manager. You know what a heel is? And I said, yes. And I said, we've got to come up with a name for this guy. I mean, when I first did my shtick, I was in the audience taking notes. I paid for a ticket, sat down, made all these crummy remarks about the wrestlers in the ring and about the people in Salisbury and Hampton Beach. And we thought about it, and, it was Johnny Fabo, Johnny Wonderful. And I said, wait a minute. People hate people with money. People hate arrogance. People despise people who make fun of people who work for a living. You know what? I'm Johnny. I'm not great. I'm fabulous.